Welcome to The Right Question. I'm Daphne Gray Grant, and today my topic is when to start a new chapter. I have a question from Laura White from Edmonton, Alberta. Here's what she's asked.
My question is, how do you know when to start a new chapter when writing a novel? Thank you very much, Daphne.
Thanks for your short and succinct question, Laura. First, I want to point out that I'm a non-fiction writer, not a novelist, so you might want to take my advice with a grain of salt. But that said, I'm a really serious reader. I read at least 52 books each year, and I have strong opinions about them, reflecting my more than 47 years as a voracious reader. If you look at other books, you might have noticed that writers and/or their publishers seem to have loosened the reins a little in terms of chapters. For example, I recently read the book The Rules Do Not Apply by Ariel Levy, link below, and she seems to have abandoned traditional chapters. Instead, she had chunks of extra space to divide different sections of the book. Now, I was reading her book on my Kindle, so I have no idea what the printed version would have looked like. It might have been a bit different. I mention this example only to remind you that you might not need to use conventional chaptering. Some writers use space, asterisks, or other symbolic divisions to show they want the reader to respond to the next bit of text a little bit differently. On the other hand, if you are committed to conventional chapters, here's what I suggest. If your book is going to be 80,000 words, which is the length most traditional publishers suggest, then you're going to want somewhere between 18 and 25 chapters. You don't need to set them up when you're writing. Instead, earmark a symbol, a hashtag, an asterisk, even a bunch of X's, and insert it whenever you think there might be a natural chapter break. Later, when you're editing, you can do a search for those symbols and decide whether you want to put the actual chapter breaks there. Be aware that there's no right or wrong associated with chapters. It's an artistic decision. So your next question is probably going to be, where might be a good spot for a chapter break? The answer to that kind of depends on the type of book you're writing. If you're working on a thriller or a mystery, for example, you might want to pick spots of great excitement and end your chapters there. I'm sure you've seen this technique used in television. The final show in a season often has something really exciting happen, a cliffhanger, so that viewers will be engaged to come back next season. Shows like Grey's Anatomy, Breaking Bad, and Mad Men all did this. But there's also a literary tradition to cliffhangers. Charles Dickens made the practice popular way back in the mid-19th century when his book The Old Curiosity Shop was published in installments in magazines. He made sure to end each installment with a cliffhanger. Apparently, in 1841, his fans rioted on the dock of the New York harbor waiting for the next installment. "Is little Nell dead?" they cried. Of course, you won't want to end every chapter this way, but with the right kind of book, it can be a very effective technique. One other method for identifying chapter breaks is to look for changes in time, place, or point of view. If, for example, you go from a scene in New York City to Los Angeles, that might be a good time to start a new chapter. Similarly, if you want to present more than one voice, as Barbara Kingsolver does in her book The Poisonwood Bible, you can signify that change by starting a new chapter. In Kingsolver's book, link below, the mother narrates the introductory chapter, and the remaining chapters are divided between the 4 daughters. Again, let me repeat that making chapters is more of an art than a science. Be prepared to experiment, make changes, and most of all, make mistakes. Finally, let me wrap up with a quote from British-born Canadian writer Matt Hughes. Many first-time novelists end up rewriting their first 2 or 3 chapters, trying to get them just right. But the point of the first draft is not to get it right. It's to get it written so that you have something to work with. Thanks for the question, Laura. Just remember, the objective of your first draft is to get your story on the page. Once you've done that, you'll have the freedom to change the placement of your chapters however you like.